Okay, so this is a presentation about our research, which is the psychological effects, psychological impacts that is on the typical user playing online games. So we start with what sort of psychological effects there are. So long-term, short-term, how the user reacts to each sort of game and scenario. We vary on different people as well. So we look at how the same game scenario affects different players, and whether they show physical reactions or they just keep it inside. We'll also consist of a table of aims and objectives, which will show what our research aims to do and how we aim to achieve these objectives, sort of with focus groups or questionnaires. And here is that said table. We start off with the first objective, which is to find out which games are most popular and which of the most popular games are offering competitive game mode. And how we're going to achieve that? We're going to achieve that with a paid questionnaire and face-to-face focus group. We're aiming to do this to find out why people play these games and which games they do play the most. The next objective is to find out which parts of these games affect the user's emotions. Same again, paper questionnaire to peers, online observation and face-to-face focus groups are going to be using to achieve these objectives. This allows us to find out what part of the games influence players' emotions. The next objective is to find out whether or not competitive gaming increases the display of emotions or not. So whether the user reacts more based on whether there's something at stake or not. This will begin with a paper questionnaire, online observation and face-to-face focus group. This will show us whether competitive gaming does actually affect the user's emotions more or not at all. We'll then look into the reactions of the user and gauge the information collected. This will help us to show whether or not displays of emotion is because of the way the game is built or because of the way another user is playing against them. And the final one is to understand the long-term mental effects. A lot of people say that gaming can have a long-term negative psychological effect, so we want to research this and find out whether it's actually true or not. And that will begin with online research and literature review.
When creating the literature review, we found a number of resources that show how the positive and negatives within the social environment, in terms of the community. For example, Williams and Chaplin, they stated that there are that players report that there is a positive aspect of playing online games, and that social environments they get brought together when playing online games.
Do we use different methods to gather information? The two methods we chose was online questionnaires and focus groups. The questionnaires was created, we designed via creating a large group number of questions and then narrowing them down to about 15, 20. And we picked the best ones that we could from the list that we did previously think of. Within the focus groups, we had about 7 people, which were all males, unfortunately. We didn't get any females, which narrowed the results down. But we did gather a wide range of opinions and experiences to help in answering and meeting the objectives proposed within our aims and objectives table. Focus group worked really well, with the audio being very clear and a wide range of answers and opinions helped us answer our question at the end. Also within the methodology section, we had an ethics bit, which needed to be conducted in order to make sure we didn't offend anybody or didn't upset anybody while undergoing our research. Within the questionnaire, we give an ethics page so how we use the information, what we do with the information. Also, we give them the option to back out of the questionnaire anytime they wanted. Similar to the questionnaire, we had the focus group, which required a consent form, required a consent form, which will allow users to understand what they've been questioned about and if they've got any worries about the focus group, they can go back to the consent form.
So this is the introduction into the results part of the research, and this table was used to display the most popular genres, which was objective 2, to help show which genres were more popular amongst the different genders. So as you can see here, FPS is incredibly popular amongst males, with 8 people out of 20 saying that they played. Similar action-adventure games, and these kind of games, so the RPG, action-adventure, FPS, which are on the high end of the scale, are often seen as games that offer the most competitive experiences and can affect players playing them the most. And then this second graph is one that shows the different game genres with the percentage of people that play them by gender, and they're organised and categorised by a line that increases over time, being the average emotional effect that the genres have. So up here, the sports and MOBA genres, they have roughly the same average emotional effects, and MOBAs and sports games such as FIFA, MOBAs such as League of Legends, they often nowadays have a really big professional following, so it's naturally competitive for people playing the game. And this was just to kind of combine and give the most information as possible, most relevant information in one graph.
Okay, so this is the results from the focus group that we carried out earlier prior to this presentation. We did it with five people it was, all of similar age to ourselves, so between 18 and 21. A lot of the responses that we found for this focus group were around personal experiences around gaming rather than positive or negative. There's quite neutral feelings towards gaming. So one participant here, as you can see, spoke out about playing Sonic 2 with a friend's computer, or a storyline game that's sad, such as Metal Gear Solid 5. There's a bit where you've got to kill a bunch of your own dudes, and that was pretty horrendous. That's where it sort of, that's the contrast we have in this focus group. So there were times where it was just personal experience, and then there was times where it was actively negative or actively positive. There was an occasion in the focus group where someone talked about getting a special Pokemon on a Pokemon game, and he picked that as a positive aspect of gaming. So it's quite a varied focus group. A number of responses also aided in answering the objectives, specifically studying whether user reactions were as a result of game design or mentality. So this is more whether the games has caused the reaction or the user input has caused the reaction. So an example would be League of Legends, where say if an opponent or someone on the team is actively, giving you grief, they call it toxicity or flaming, then this is an example of user input causing emotion or reaction from a game. But say if a game mechanic was bugged or broken, that would be more the game causing the anger or the emotion from the user. And finally, this can be linked into damaging peripherals, as a number of the participants in the focus group had owned up to breaking, computer mice or console controllers, which is a big thing really, because they're quite expensive these days. A controller can go up to £50, mice can get up to £100, even the high-end ones. That's all I've got to say about the focus group. Okay, so we put together the results from focus groups and the questionnaires to provide a general overview of the people's opinions. And we tend to find that it was a general positive view of gaming, which was quite on the contrary really. because there is a lot of articles in the news and the media, mainstream media especially at the moment, where they're kind of bashing gaming and they're very against gaming. So it was quite refreshing to find in our research that the positive opinions, by far and away outweigh the negative opinions of gaming. Some of the positives that I just mentioned, things such as motor skills and hand-eye coordination. It's one of the positives people kind of stick on when it comes to gaming. They kind of always say it's the main one, so obviously that's quite a big one. People use muscle memory, stuff like that, so reactions, so you see a thing on, something happen on screen and you have to react to it quickly. It's quite a good positive to have. Reaction times are always a good thing to have in any area of life, really. There's also problem solving. So when you have a puzzle game or you have a difficult challenge in a game, it encourages the mind to think more of how to work a way around the problem. And moving on to the negative effects, they can't be ignored at all because there are quite not loads of negative effects, but the negative effects can be quite psychologically damaging, especially in online games where you've got people calling you out and giving you abuse online. It can be quite disheartening, I suppose, when it comes to online games. Okay, moving on to the recommendations. As I said in the slide before, general feeling from our research is that the positive effects outweigh the negative effects. We did find some negative effects, as I did say, such as toxicity in players. So we're sort of moving into how we can move on with this in the future, how we can take it on into our own lives. Is to kind of sympathise with teammates and enemies rather than criticise. So when you're in a game and your teammate lets you down, rather than attacking him and giving him grief, maybe sympathise with him and try and encourage him to get it right next time. An example of this would be from in 2007, page 832 to be precise, hypothesised that a feeling called, forgive the pronunciation, schadenfreude, which is the feeling of pleasure at misfortune. So when you're in a game and your team, the other team makes a mistake, or maybe a team that you don't specifically like makes a mistake, you get pleasure from it. So an idea in the future to improve our mentality around gaming, not just ours, but other people's as well, would be to maybe sympathise with them rather than criticise them.
So throughout the whole of the research, this is just the reflection, a basic reflection, and what went well, there was, due to online gaming becoming incredibly popular and leaking into kind of mainstream media and news outlets, is the availability of research materials and journals, because everyone wants to kind of find out as much information as they can about it, about the benefits, the negatives, all of that stuff. So there was a lot of stuff available for us to use, such as in the literature review and for general results and comparisons that we could make. The design of the questionnaire had a lot of relevant questions and important questions that worked really well and gave us a wide variety of stuff to use, because we could create lots of conclusions drawn from different things. The focus group response is the same thing. It was mentioned before that because we had a wide variety of people, they all gave different personal experiences, different opinions of what they thought was good, what they thought was bad, and it helped us with generally answering our objectives, which was the whole purpose of them. And also methodology research, which I thought was interesting because it was an area that none of us had really researched before, so it was a brand new area that we could find out more information about and just help improve our research as much as possible. Things that didn't go so well was the fact that when we got sources, we found them as we went, as opposed to collecting them all beforehand, finding out what we needed to prepare and could use. We could have had more people and a wider variety of people in the focus group, same as the questions, just to increase the amount and different range that we got. And then we did distribute the questionnaires online, but it would have been even better if we could distribute them in paper, because we could make sure, we could hand them to people and make sure we get them back, as opposed to just putting it online as we did and people would see them if they came across it. But that's everything. Overall, it was a really good project, and very happy with the results we found out. So this was a presentation for our research into psychological effects of online gaming. Thanks for listening.